everyone, it's Jennifer from Flux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet the Festive Cranberry Cowl. This is a fun and super easy project that you can make either for yourself or as a gift. It is made in under one ball of yarn, so you can really even take several balls of yarn and make a whole bunch of gifts as well. So this is really easy to construct, and I'm just going to kind of lift this up and show you what we have here. So we have some really pretty full fringe at the bottom, and then our cowl is made in a very easy mesh using only double crochets and chains. The finished cowl measures about 10.5 inches tall minus the fringe, and it has a circumference of about 26 inches, and then the fringe itself is about 6 inches. Now you can make your fringe shorter or longer. It's very customizable. We're just going to be kind of trimming this at the bottom. And you can also make your cowl larger or taller as well. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a tapestry needle, a pair of scissors, a 6.5 millimeter K crochet hook. I always get lots of questions about my hooks, so this is the Furls Odyssey hook that I'm using today, and I can put the link down below for that as well. You'll need a ruler or tape measure and your yarn. I'm going to be using one ball of Red Heart with Love. Each ball of this is 315 yards or 288 meters. I'm going to be using the Berry Red, a very festive color. If you need to substitute yarn, look for yarn that recommends the 6.5 millimeter K crochet hook and is a medium and 4 on the yarn weight scale. As a side note, this does not have a dye lot, so you don't need to worry about that with this particular yarn. It is machine wash and dry. If you do go with some of the other Red Heart with Love, like the metallics, for example, that are also very, very festive, just note that the yardage is a little bit lower than the solids of this yarn. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and slide this over. We'll keep it handy, though, for reference if we need it. And then we're going to grab our yarn, and we're going to begin by making our starting chain. So our starting chain is 80. Now, if you need your cowl to be larger in circumference, larger than I have made mine, just do any even number is just fine. But we're going to do a starting chain of 80, okay? So what you want to do is wrap your yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Next, we're going to chain 80. So to make a chain, wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 76, 77, 78, 79, and 80. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. So what we're going to do next is join in the farthest chain from the hook to create the bottom of our cowl. So we're going to create like the large ring and work upward, okay? So go all the way back to the beginning of the chain, the very first chain that you made. And as a side note, I'm using the K hook, but if your chain is too tight, which will draw in the bottom of your cowl a little bit too much, you can go up a hook size if you're having trouble with that, and then go back to the K for the rest of your project. Okay, so go back to that very first chain you made, insert the hook into that chain, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the loop. Now bring that loop through the loop that's already on your hook, okay? And this is going to be the bottom of our cowl. So then what we want to do is start building upward, and for row 1, what we're going to do is chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now this tail, we'll just deal with that later. And then what we're going to do, now as a side note, again, this chain 4 counts as both a double crochet plus a chain 1. These mesh stitches are all double crochet with a chain in between. So that chain 4 is going to mimic that look, okay? So we're going to skip the first chain here, and in the next chain, we're going to work a double crochet chain 1, okay? So this chain here, remember we skipped one chain, the next chain will work a double crochet chain 1. So to make a double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Okay, and then chain 1, skip the next chain, in the chain after that, work a double crochet, chain 1. We're building the beginnings of our mesh stitch. Okay, skip the next chain, and in the next chain after that, work a double crochet, chain 1. And we're just going to be doing this all the way around. Skip the next chain, in the chain after that, work a double crochet, chain 1. Skip the next chain, in the next chain, double crochet, chain 1. Skip the next chain, in the chain after that, double crochet, chain 1, next chain, skip the next chain, in the next chain after that, double crochet, chain 1. Let's look at what we have done so far. We're starting to get the beginnings of our mesh that looks very similar to our cowl over here. Okay. Also, the Red Heart with Love, if you're using the same yarn that I'm using, if you can, look for the end here and use the center pull ball. It's very helpful, and you can see, well, sometimes, I don't see it on this, so maybe I'm just missing it, but sometimes they show a little diagram of which end to pull. So at one side is the end, and at the other side if you want to pull it from the outside of the ball. Okay, chain 1, and then skip the next chain, and the chain after that, double crochet, chain 1. So let's continue all the way around our chain. And then once we get towards the end, I'll show you how to finish off row 1, or round 1 rather, and move on to round 2. So just keep going. Skip the next chain, and the chain after that, double crochet, chain 1. Just doing the same thing all the way around. Skip the next chain, and the chain after that, double crochet, chain 1. Okay, so let's keep going, and when we get towards the end of this round, we'll rejoin again. Okay, we're just coming up to the end of round 1. And we're just working that last double crochet, chain 1. And then what we're going to do is join to close the round once you get to the end there. And you're going to count 3 chains up. 1, 2, 3. Insert the hook into that third chain up, bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. So we just joined with a slip stitch to close the round. And then remember at the beginning we did a chain 4, and that was the double crochet plus that chain 1. You can see how that kind of blends in now and makes more sense as we, finish the round. Okay, so let's move on to round 2. Again, we'll just save this tail for later. So to begin round 2, what we're going to do is chain 4 once again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now again, that's going to count as a double crochet, chain 1. And then we're going to hop over to that first double crochet of our round. So you can see here, see that very first one that you come to? At the top of it is the stitch. You're going to work into that stitch. See that little loop at the top right there? Going to work right into that, okay? So work a double crochet into that first stitch and chain 1. Hop on over to the next double crochet and do the same thing. Double crochet, chain 1. Your double crochets for each round will be kind of stacked on top of one another, and we're going to be creating sort of like a grid-like design here. Okay, work into the next stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. And we're just going to do this all the way around, okay? And as we work more and more rounds, it will build up into this beautiful mesh that you see here. Okay, and then actually too, I meant to say earlier, round 2 is the round that we repeat for the rest of the piece. So this is super duper easy. Work a double crochet, chain 1 to the next stitch, double crochet, chain 1 to that next stitch. Get a little bit more yarn here. Double crochet, chain 1 to the next stitch. All right, I'm going to keep working my round, working a double crochet, chain 1 into each one of these double crochets from the previous round, and then we'll rejoin towards the end of this round as well, and then we'll move on to finishing up the cowl part of our project and then adding this fabulous fringe at the bottom. Okay, so just keep working round 2 all the way around, and once we get towards the end of this round, we'll rejoin and we'll learn how to do the end of the round as well. Okay, so just keep going with your round 2. Okay, I'm just working that last double crochet of the round, and then chain 1, excuse me, and then in the 3rd chain up to close the round, 1, 2, 3, work a slip stitch to close the round. So insert your hook into that 3rd chain up, bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook, and round 2 is complete. So what you're going to do to finish your cowl before we move on to the fringe is to just keep repeating round 2 over and over and over again. And let me just zoom out so you can see a little bit more of that. But you're just going to be repeating round 2 over and over and over again until your height is about 10.5 inches tall if you want it to look like mine. Now yours can be much, much taller by just simply working more rounds. Likewise, earlier on when we did the starting chain, if you want your circumference to be more drapey, or if you want to have a cowl, I know some of you like a long infinity scarf that you can wrap around twice and make it extra bulky. Just simply do an even number of chains like we talked about before. But you can really make this any size you like, as well as the fringe. You just cut them any length you want, really. So let's repeat round 2 until we get to about 10.5 inches tall, and then we'll rejoin, finish up the cowl, and then start working on that beautiful fringe. Okay, so I'm just working that last double crochet of our round, and then a chain 1. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch. Same thing we've been doing. So count 1, 2, 3. Join with a slip stitch to close the round. Bring up that loop. Bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And then our cowl is complete. So you can take yours a little higher if you need to. You can make it shorter. It's up to you. But I thought this had a really nice drape. And again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, this is roughly 10.5 inches tall, okay? So what we're going to do next is do the finish work of our cowl and then add some fringe. Now, of course, the fringe is completely optional, but you know, you can add that for a festive touch, and we're just fastening off too as a side note. But you can add the fringe if you like. If not, you can be done with your cowl once you weave in your ends. So the next thing we're going to do is turn our cowl inside out. Grab a tapestry needle, and I just have 2 ends here. Now if you did multicolors or stripes or something like that, you'll want to, you may have some more ends, or if you were using up scrap yarn. So just go in with your tapestry needle, and we turn it to the inside out so that we are going in those back loops. So you're just going to go in one direction with your tapestry needle, and then you're just going to come back in the other direction, just like that, and then take your scissors, and you can go ahead and trim that end, and then repeat for the other tail that you have, or tails. I'm going to give that a fresh cut because it came undone a little bit. It's easier to thread your tapestry needle if you do give it a fresh cut. And then just thread that. And just repeat. So just do the same thing you just did. Just go in one direction, just through those back loops. Now this is monochromatic, so we're not having to worry about staying within the same colors here because it's all red. But if you have stripes, you'll want to stay within those stripes for your tails. And then you can just snip that off. Okay, so now we're ready to add our fringe. So you'll want to decide next what you want the top of your cowl to be and what you want your bottom. Now this was my starting chain along the bottom, and I make my starting chain fairly loose, so it has like a nice top and bottom to it. Okay, so I'm going to just make my starting chain where I'm going to put the fringe. And so when we made our mesh, we did these decorative holes. So we're going to put fringe in each one of these spaces all the way around. And that being said, if you don't want fringe on your cowl, then you can just kind of skip over this part and be done with your cowl. But we're going to do fringe, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So I did roughly the length of my forearm. So from my hand to where my arm bends at my elbow, and then fold it in half. Okay, so do that again. And then take that and do it one more time. and then do that one more time. So you're going to have 4 strands, the length of roughly your fingertip to your forearm. If you need a measurement, I'll give you a measurement if you'd rather do it that way. You could kind of lay a ruler on the table and do it that way. But you'll want your little bundles, we're going to call these, to be roughly mine's a little over 12 inches long. You can make yours 12 inches long or up to 13. That's a great size. So what you're going to do now is pick up your bundle, make sure it's even on both sides, and just kind of hook it around your finger. Now go into one of those spaces with your hook. You can really do this with your fingers, but pull it up through and see how I have now a loop. So I've created this loop here. Take the bottom and put it through, okay? So just like that, and then snug it up with a knot, but don't pull it because it will distort your beautiful stitches that you've just created. Okay, so our first little fringe has been added. Now later on in the video, we're going to kind of give these a little trim, so don't worry about that part yet. So what we're going to do next is you're going to go all around your cowl, around the bottom, and in each one of these spaces, add one more of these bundles, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and add mine, and then we're going to rejoin and finish up the fringe part of our cowl. Okay, so I went ahead and added all the fringe, remember 1 in each space all the way around. Now if you notice here, I did put a stitch marker in here, and that was just to help me know where I began and where I left off, because I kind of do mine, I did every other one and then I filled in, but you know, it's totally up to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that out, and then what we're going to do is grab a pair of scissors. Now the larger and sharper the better. And we're just going to give it a nice even trim all the way across. We're just going to try to get it as a straight line as we possibly can. Now when you wear this cowl, because of the way the cowl bottom will drape around your shoulders, the fringe will create kind of like a curve naturally, just by the way it lays. So what we're going to do is just cut a straight line all the way across. I'm going to angle this just a little bit, and I'm going to come in with my scissors. And basically at the ends here we have loops. So you just want to also make sure you get those loops out while you're cutting. So just trim, and then you can save your yarn scraps for other projects if you like. We're just trimming all the way across. This is where it pays to go kind of slowly and carefully. You don't want to trim too crazy. Now if you have a couple of short ones like this, you can just trim that loop out like that. Okay, so just go all the way across, and when we're done doing this part, we're going to give it a nice shake to get all these little pieces off, but also make sure everything's nice and even. Okay, so we're just trimming all across the bottom here. And I have to say, this is a very quick little project, and the fringe on the bottom of the cowl is very popular right now. So this would make a wonderful gift. Fast and popular and cute. Okay, I'm just getting some of these loops that I'm seeing, and then I had a little bit back here that I wanted to trim as well. Okay, so now what we can do is get all those scraps out of the way. We can just give our cowl a nice little shake and see if you have any crumbs or any loops left, and you can even flip it over on the back. And I see here on the back, so you can kind of comb it down with your fingers. And giving that a shake was really helpful because I see here a few things. This side is a bit long and has some loops still. So let's just come right on across here. And I like to, you can hear me dragging sort of the scissors along the bottom just to get everything out of there. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but getting it nice and neat certainly makes it look its best. Okay, and then just make sure that all the loops are gone. I'm still seeing a few pop up here. You can kind of comb it with your fingers to kind of see where all those loops are getting. I see a few more. They're really hiding out on this one. Okay, and kind of dig around. There's one there. And again, giving it a nice shake will help quite a bit as well. Okay, Just go through, make sure all those loops are cut. And then just give it another little shake. Get all those crumbs out of there. Okay, and let's lay this out and see how it looks. Okay, everything looks very pretty. Got a little bit of a long section here. So anytime you cut fringe like this, especially a lot of fringe like we've created, I don't ever remember getting it perfect in one pass. So you might have to do a few passes. Okay. All right, and then when you're all done, give it one last shake to get all that stuff out of there, and your cowl will be ready. Okay, so let's look at it. This is how we created it. But then when you wear it, all of those beautiful little fringe, I don't know the proper name for plural fringe, but all that beautiful fringe work that we've created is going to come out on the sides and sit on the shoulders. Okay, so that is our beautiful and completed festive cranberry cowl. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.